Hello, everyone. This is Jena Griffiths of Earth School. I have with me Richard Unger of the International Institute of Hand Analysis. Richard is also author of Life Prints. Richard?
Jena, good to be here. So we have a Simian line here as well. And for those who are unfamiliar with it, the Simian line is the one line horizontally, almost across the middle, slightly north of the middle of the palmar surface. And yes?
There's a more perfect example in image 5.
Yes, that's also very Simian, image 5. And in both of these examples, there are horizontals north of the Simian crease. There are hands where there's no horizontal north and no more or less horizontal south of the Simian. That's not what we have here. That would be a more pure version of the Simian. On image number 4, that line that parallels the Simian north is the remnant of the heart line. It's not completely a heart line, but it's more than half of a heart line sitting north of the Simian. And Simians usually look like this more often, and sometimes the remnant is north and south of the Simian crease. So all of this is just a description of what the line looks like. And this is a line that was made famous by Dr. Cummins, who's considered the father of fingerprint analysis from the medical profession, Western world medical profession. He wrote Fingerprints, Palms, and Soles. He's the first super thorough overview researcher into fingerprint and other hand markings research from the doctor's perspective. And he made a connection between the Simian crease and different types of retardation, Down syndrome in particular. And having a Simian crease myself, I have that Quester mark like on the handprint prior, and I also have the Simian crease. This is another marker that I felt a particular interest, a personal interest in learning more about. And I did a lot of research in the medical libraries. There's thousands of pages on the Simian crease, mostly initiated by Cummins and then follow-up research over the last 75 years. And Cummins made his statements about the Simian crease and retardation 20 years almost before this was accepted by the scientific community as there being a connection. And then when he was verified in his research many years after the fact and after taking a lot of criticism for his research, there was a renewed interest by doctors, geneticists, and other, let's say, quote-unquote, scientific researchers into the Simian crease. It's connected with low birth weight babies. It's connected with retardation, mongoloidism, Down syndrome. Shows a much higher incidence with the Simian crease than the population at large. By the way, in North America, there's 3% or so of the population with the Simian crease. So that is not a rare marking at all. That's 3 per 100. That is not rare. But in the thousands of pages I've read, and it's so detailed, mothers who smoked half a pack of cigarettes a day but did not drink coffee, mothers who smoked half a pack of cigarettes and did drink coffee, 1 cup, 2 cups, blah, 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 and whether their child with the Simian crease was considered to be a Down syndrome child. All this very, very detailed research, not a page, not a sentence, about any possible good news, any possible specialness to those who have the Simian crease. And so I was looking for more silver lining to the Simian crease. And in my own understanding, in reading for people with Simian creases and reading the research of other hand readers, not the medical profession people, but reading the literature on the Simian crease and my own experience with it, this could be a very positive marking in somebody's hands. And there's a similarity with the Quester mark. The Simian crease person brings a fierce, focused determination and intensity of this is my mission and nothing is going to stop me to what they're doing. And the Simian Crease person who has found a place to put this in their life. They're like Jacques Cousteau, and they're all about the oceans. And my consuming interest in hands and everything hands. When the Simian Crease person has found this, they're in good shape. And when they have not, well, then there are various problems that occur. In the broken lifeline Questor marking that we looked at before, the problem for the person, the symptom, if you will, is they are adrift at sea. The Simian Crease owners face a communications challenge and a misunderstandings possibility and a type of vulnerability challenge that is a learning program, if you will, for these people. And rather than go into detail about it, that would be worth an entire, at least a 90-minute interview, Jena. I'll just leave it at that.
Richard, I guess we'll be talking about the Simian Crease next week when we have our topic call on miscommunication.
Yes, there's a specific type of miscommunication possibility that comes into play with the Simian Crease, and I will go into that in detail. But I will say this. The Simian Crease people who have done well with it, and I know several, and I've also seen Charles Lindbergh's hand. He has a Simian Crease. Think of the dedication of Charles Lindbergh crossing the Atlantic all by himself, 1920-something or other, whatever. The dedication to the task that has yielded positive results. All of these people, all the Simian Crease people face the miscommunication and misunderstanding issue. And when they have turned this nemesis into an ally, they have extra communications ability from having dealt so often with misunderstandings and been defenselessly vulnerable and open to their own process and listening to what's happening with other people. The advanced Simian Crease owner has learned extra about communications, and they're able to deploy that extra experiential wisdom in the special work that they're up to.
Well, Richard, I think you're a perfect example of that, and also of the extreme focus of when you think that you've applied the Simian to the world of hands and have decoded fingerprints and gift markers and so many other things, and now also hand shapes, which we'll be talking about later in this call. So do you think you got into the world of hands because of the Simian marker?
Well, not so much because of the Simian marker. I brought the same exaggerated focus, if you will, to other activities earlier in my life. So when I got interested in hands, I grabbed onto it in a Simian intensity way. Other Simians have used their intensity for, I know one person who built a restaurant and opened his own farm just so he can raise the vegetables that he can sell as the side dishes at his own restaurant. That's the degree of detail he went to make his restaurant the best restaurant in the world. And that's what Simian Crease people do. Their work is totally consuming. And at their best, they've learned how to find some balance in their life. They have time for friends, family, fun, etc., while they are building their most wonderful restaurant in the world.
So would you think of it as the energy of the heart and the head running in one cable?
Yes. Yes. Let's go into that in more detail on a different call, because that's a big topic, too big for what we're doing today.
Okay. I have a question for you on the Simian here from Mary Kieran. And she
hi, Mary.
She says, what is the best way to talk to parents of children with a simian crease? How can they better prepare the child to make use of their intensity without both child and caregivers being constantly frustrated?
Yes, and that's a very good question, Mary, and that's really too big for this call. I'd have to go into much more detail. I'd like to, but not on this call. Much more detail about how the simian crease operates, and when you understand the underlying mechanism of the simian crease and what the implications of having the head and heart line fused together, when the parent can learn to decode what the simian crease child is saying and doing, and responding, if the parent can respond from understanding how the mechanism works instead of what they hear coming out of their son or daughter's mouth and what actions are taking place, when they can decode it at a deeper level, their response is much more likely to yield the outcome that they want. They have to learn a certain translation, a certain decoding of their simian child, or they're likely to run into repeated miscommunications.
Okay,
and
so
it's just too much.
Yeah, that could make all the world of difference in...
Oh, my God, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, my God, yes.
Great. Well, thank you.
And it's not that hard to do. And it's the same as learning Spanish, German, French, whatever. When you can understand what the other person is intending to say, then you can respond accordingly. When you don't understand what they're saying, everybody is flailing around. So the simian crease person talks in a certain code that they don't realize is a code, and the listeners don't realize it either, unless you understand the mechanism at play.
Okay, good. And to reiterate, this is not a bad marker. I mean, there's a lot of
No,
stuff
absolutely not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you actually identified as a gift marker.
Yes, I consider it a very special marker, and there are many people I know who have this, who are they're intense, and they've got a ferocity of focus for their activities, and that's worked incredibly to their advantage. One of the challenges for me was that it was hard for me to understand why other people couldn't spend as many hours in a classroom as I was spending with the same focus that I had. When I started the intensive, Jena, the intensive that you have taken, which was the prelude to getting into the year-long program that you did, my first intensives for the first few years were from 9 in the morning to 10 at night for 2 days. That's why I called it the intensive. We served lunch and dinner so that nobody would leave the premises, so we could be all steeped in the world of hands. And I was in good shape at 10 o'clock on Sunday, but I found that my students couldn't do that. I should just have done this class for simian crease people only, and set up a different format for everybody else.
And you probably didn't even have the idea of having the lunch break.
Well, I would get hungry, I suppose.
Okay, just kidding. Okay, good. So, simian crease, don't worry about all the stuff that's out there about devil markings and things like that.
No, I wouldn't worry about that, but the medical literature is not incorrect. In some researches, over 50% of the Down syndrome sample group had the simian crease, whereas it's only 3% of the North American and Western European population. So it is statistically significant towards, and it's not just Down syndrome, towards various types of retardation. But that's misleading because the vast majority of those with this marking have no retardation whatsoever.
Yeah, in fact, gifted, rather the opposite.
Potentially gifted.
Yes. Okay. Well, thank you, Richard.
Mm-hmm.